What evil prank have you pulled off? Two of my friends have never met each other. Before they spoke, I told both of them that the other is a bit deaf. They shouted at each other for a few minutes before they realized that I'm a bumhole. I mean, this is the perfect prank. There's a little bit of embarrassment, but mostly just confusion on both of their parts. Edit. Wow, people are so nice, wishing me a happy cake day. One summer in college, I worked in the registrar's office, registering all the incoming freshmen. A prof who was a mentor to me was teaching freshman seminar and asked me to handpick a class for her. Straight A students, high sats, whatever. So I did 15 students, all named Sarah. I wonder if the professor took it in stride after finishing attendance. I suppose you're wondering why I gathered you together here today. My mum's laptop wallpaper was a picture of her granddaughter. I copied the picture 100 times and made her wallpaper a slideshow of the same picture over and over again, so the file would change but nothing would change visibly on the monitor. The pictures would change every 10 seconds. On one of the images I painted a tiny little curly mustache on her. So randomly for 10 seconds my niece would have a mustache. My mum thought she was either losing her mind or had a computer virus, and every time the mustache popped up, it was gone by the time she tried to show anyone. You show potential. Big time. I made fake versions of Internet Explorer that turn your PC off when started in the ICT class at school. Oh god, I thought about that for a second and truly, sincerely and with all my heart, frick you. I saw a post about switching around mayo and vanilla pudding, emptied out a mayo jar and cleaned it well, filled it with a few pots worth of vanilla pudding and took it to uni. Our uni is very lax about eating during the lectures, so I waited until midday when I was sitting in the middle of all my friends and they were all eating their lunch. Cue me taking out the jar of mayo and a spoon, popping the lid and taking a big spoonful with a grin. At first only the closest ones noticed, but after the third spoon it was like everyone was frozen around me. Pin drop silence. After the fifth spoon someone faux-retched and the spell was broken. The looks of sheer terror and disgust was well worth the pain of eating vanilla pudding. I'm a chocolate kinda gal. One of my friends let me know he was going to pull this prank, so I helped him fill a jar with pudding. Then I swapped his jar of mayo pudding with a regular jar of mayo. When my brother and I were in middle school, my brother liked to skateboard with our next door neighbor. One day, my brother and the neighbor took the sheet of plywood from under my brother's upper bunk bed, no one slept in the upper bunk, out of the house, and started making a skateboard ramp out of it in the neighbor's adjacent yard. My parents had explicitly told him that he wasn't allowed to do that. Now, in my defense, my brother teased me unmercifully, to the point of tears, on multiple occasions, so keep in mind that he had had it coming for a long time. Anyway, an evil little plan hatched in my brain. I ran to the upstairs window and yelled down at them, "Brother's name, guess what? Mom knows everything and she is so mad." Then I slammed the window shut and ran to the stairs and waited while watching my mom read the newspaper. A few moments later, my brother walks in the front door looking worried and says, "Mom, I'm so sorry." My mom, who had no idea what was going on, said, "About what?" while slowly putting the newspaper down. "For making a skateboard ramp out of the wood from the bunk bed." "You did what?" At that moment, a wave of shock and realization swept across my brother's face and our eyes met. I let out the biggest evilest little sister cackle and ran into my room. We are adults now and still laugh about it from time to time. The AM supervisor at my office is a short little man who likes to work from a laptop on a rolling adjustable desk. For over a year I gradually raised the height of this desk and watched as he went from sitting on a stool, to an adjustable tall task chair, to standing. Last week he removed the wheels from the desk to lower the height. He doesn't realize it's adjustable. A friend kept trying to steal my sushi off my plate at a sushi restaurant. So while she wasn't looking, I stuffed it full of wasabi, put a bit of fish back on top to cover my tracks, and pretended to not be looking when she started reaching towards it. She tossed it into her mouth, started chewing down, and I just swung my head towards her to say, "You fricked up." 5 minutes of coughing, muffled screaming, and copious amounts of water later, she had learned her lesson. I got a Harry Potter calligraphy set for my birthday years ago. It had Hogwarts marked paper, envelopes and everything. My brother ate all of my birthday chocolates from an aunt that night, so I plotted my revenge. Next September I copied out Harry's letter word for word in green ink, only changing the name. I let him believe he was going to magic school for 2 whole weeks before I crushed it. Once I asked a friend for another friend's phone number. He gave me a teacher's number. I then went on to send multiple messages in a fake angry tone to my unsuspecting teacher. Frick that diabolical genius of a friend. I farted under the covers, then pointed at the ceiling above my GF and shouted spider. So she'd throw the blankets over her head. Later when she told her parents, that turned out to be the thing that earned her dad's respect for me. Made him laugh so hard he needed an inhaler. Not me, but a story my mom used to tell on my dad. I don't know what it was about my dad's digestive system, but anything he ate comes out smelling bad. Really bad. As in, after he was in the bathroom no one else could go in there for at least a half hour longer if he forgot to open the window. Honestly, the smell would gag a maggot. Heaven forbid you be the one mom sent in there to open the window when he forgot. One night dad came home from work, night shift, got in bed, stuck his butt out of the covers and passed a really rancid one, then pulled the covers up over his head so he didn't have to smell it. But what he didn't know was that mom had eaten something for supper that was just as noxious on its way out. She waited till he got his head under the covers and got a good seal on it, and let one rip. She said he came out from under those covers like a shot, gagging the whole time. Back in middle school, my best friend and me sent an email to a newspaper claiming to be a famous person, stating we would be running in the upcoming presidential election, and that they'd hear the details shortly. The next day, all the main newspapers over here printed it and some started speculating about the strategy, until it was all officially denied, at which point the person and their company started speculating themselves about who and why would plant such a story, unaware it was just 2 kids who accidentally found a spoof emailing app in the iPhone jailbroken app store. And that famous person? Donald Trump. At my sister's swim meet, I found an ice machine tucked away in a garage looking thing. So I started collecting the ice and somehow managed to put ice in nearly everyone's shoe at the meet. It was a wild, beautiful moment of pure confusion and chaos. Everyone started freaking out and no one knew it was the little shy girl who secretly enjoyed turmoil. I used to work at a science tutoring center when I was in college and my gap year before professional school. One of the things we taught very often was anatomy. So naturally we acquired a few skeletons and various skulls with some variation in how they looked or were marked, etc. Well, I was closing one night, and I knew my co-worker was opening the next morning early, so before I locked up I assorted all of the skeletons and skulls in a welcome party near the front door. I had one immediately at the opening of the only door into the room with several backup skeletons and skulls just behind at a table together watching on. The best part was that you have to turn on the lights manually and that switch is immediately to the side of the door opening. So when she reached down to turn on the lights she had to come face to face with some lifeless skeleton skull in the middle of the shady opening. Needless to say she screamed, and it was loud enough to make our boss come to see if she was okay. Woke up to some colorful texts mayo. Still proud of that one, honestly. I can meow just like a cat. In fact, I can do it so well that people will often look around for the cat that is not there. This has resulted in several hilarious instances of strangers running around frantically looking for the cat and me sitting off to the side watching. Stray cats will usually stare at me for a couple seconds before continuing doing whatever. Pet cats will usually hold a conversation with me, particularly if they're chatty. Edit. The confusion of everyone's pets fuels a lady of cats and she is pleased by your offerings of Reddit awards. One that was played on me. I took my SATs, college entrance exams, for those outside the US, on the 1st of April. Should have known, right? But apparently, I'm not that smart. That night I went out with a group of friends, and when I got home my mom met me with a serious look on her face. She told me that the testing committee had called, that there had been an error and all test papers from that day were lost. Everyone was being contacted to schedule a date to retake the exam. She totally sold it. Face, reactions, everything. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And she let me believe it until lunchtime the next day. My mom is a diabolical person. I created a fake uniform policy poster for my high school. It wasn't perfect, but people were idiots, so they fell for it. It took everyone about a week to actually read the poster and see that it was obviously fake. Some people still showed up on the first day wearing the uniform that I designed. Edit: the uniform wasn't anything idiotic looking. Just khaki pants, white buttoned shirt, church shoes, and black socks. The outrage was mostly from the fact that people couldn't wear their name brand clothes as a flex. Working in a hot factory, supervisor and job planner in this enclosed cubicle with a window AC unit in the middle of the shop, aka nice 68 in there while we sweat our butts off in 95-110 F heat. Kinda hot and pissy and always flies around. I kept grabbing the flies alive, walking into the cubicle to ask a usually legit question or say I'm just cooling off and opening my hand behind my back. I put 14 of those frikers in there in one shift. He never did catch on I was doing it and the planner was pissed swatting around. There were so many flies in there. Supervisor was cleaning out every crevice thinking some food is supporting life now somewhere. Dude was harassing my ex because he used to have her cell phone number. Was being a real freaking creep. Anyways, I created an email address, signed up to Kijiji and placed an ad offering an 80-inch 3D TV for free with some excuse about a bad breakup and not wanting her to get it. I asked people to only text or call. I then went to bed and forgot all about it until the next day at work. I'd get a text from my ex asking if I had done something on Kijiji. The dude was begging her to take the ad down and apologizing. I checked the email and there were 5 pages of responses even though I had told them not to email but to call or text. Dude's phone must have been ringing constantly. I took the ad down and she never heard from him again. Not me but my cat. That fricker took a huge dump on my pillow next to me while I was asleep. Power move. In high school I went into the boys' bathroom and replaced all the soap in the dispensers with pancake syrup. Adult version is to take a bottle of hand sanitizer, clean it out, fill with KY jelly, leave in a public location. In the break room, called my coworker in. I had a chair, plastic cup with an inch of water in it, and a broom in the corner. I asked him to help me stick the cup on the ceiling, climbed on the chair, and he held the cup up with the broom. Then I said, "Wanna see a cool trick?" Climbed off the chair and walked away with it. You could hear him cussing and yelling out in the parking lot. One night I replaced every framed object in my boss's office with a picture of me making a stern face. Posters, certificates, photos, etc. Took like 3 hours because he had like 30 framed things in his office. The next day I made sure I was out doing field work to make him sit with it most of the day. He had a lot of foot traffic to look at his office that day. I convinced a coworker for 2 months that the guy she had sat next to for 3 years was named Jay, not Dave. They worked in different departments but sat 3 feet away from each other for years. I got the guy in on it. And his manager. Then later his supervisor, group manager, division manager, and entire department. They bought him new nameplates for his desk, changed stuff in the system, so his name would print as J, etc. The only thing they didn't change was his phone number and email. She thought she was going crazy, and when I finally told her, she sucker punched me in the stomach and dropped me to my knees. She was a personal trainer in her off hours, so she got me good. Totally worth it, and I laugh about it to this day over a decade later. I went to a party at someone's house whom I didn't like. First thing I did was go into the bathroom and turn their toilet paper around so the roll was on backwards. Everyone who went to the bathroom there saw what kind of Neanderthals the homeowners were. Calm down, Satan. I got pranked. Does that count? Was at a house party at my then girlfriend's place. She knew me really well and knew that I've got a fairly competitive spirit. The place is really dark. She turns to me in the dim light and says, "My name. I bet you can't fit an orange in your mouth and eat it all in one bite." Wasn't about to say no to a challenge, so I took her up on it, only it wasn't an orange that she'd peeled but a lemon. My best friend and I were roommates for a few years, and sometimes when I was drunk I liked to draw comics of caricatures of the two of us. They were usually on pizza boxes and I would leave them outside of his room so it would be one of the first things he saw the next day. Here is an album of most of them with explanations and another one that needed its own album because of multiple panels. Eventually he and his girlfriend decided to get their own apartment together closer to their jobs, so our time as roommates had come to an end. I decided to leave him one last parting gift on one of our last nights together. He left his wallet out on the coffee table, so I took his ID and taped on little drawings of him where the pictures typically go. A few months later I hear from him about it. Him and his girlfriend were visiting some friends out of state and they were going to this bar. Apparently he handed his ID over to the bouncer like that and the dude laughed at him because of how ridiculous it was. I was honestly surprised it worked. I totally expected him to notice way before that, but I guess he didn't. Flipped the lights on and off while my sister and friends played with a Ouija board. Hasn't quite been the same since. My freshman year of high school, the big craze at my school was this 50 pack of Crayola markers. IDKY exactly, but fads are fads. A friend of mine had a pack that she was obsessed with. She had them organized in the pack in like a perfect color gradient order. So of course anytime she left the room I'd mix her markers up, so she had to fix them when she came back. This went on for a month maybe. And one day in study hall she leaves and before she leaves turns to me and she says, "Don't rearrange my freaking markers." So I didn't. I rearranged the caps. You see, these markers were solid white apart from the caps and a little tiny nib at the other end. She got about halfway through fixing them when she noticed she was holding a marker with an orange cap and a turquoise nib. I can't tell you the joy I experienced when she looked at me and said, "You didn't even move the markers, did you?" I laughed so hard I was asked to leave the study hall. She didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. 100% worth it. Husband dislikes ranch. Hates it. Loathes it. I put ranch on everything. Ranch in dips. Ranch seasoning on vegetables. Ranch. It's my long con. One day he will mess up big time. Oh yeah? Well, I've been feeding you ranch for years. Edit. Curse you all for making me add an edit. It's a prank and a joke. I love my husband. We are perfect for one another. We can play harmless jokes on one another and not get divorced. He can read this whole thread anytime he would like. Please take it in the spirit of the thread and stop trying to be my psychiatrist.